After Phelan's death, 18 huge Coronation Street spoilers still to come. Phelan has bowed out of Coronation Street in a shocking death scene, and yes, he most definitely is dead this time. But as one explosive storyline reaches its end, there are plenty more ahead that will fill the gaps as a hostage situation, a shock return, an emotional exit and a blast from the past are all on the way. With Jim McDonald, Lewis Archer and Nick Tilsley all bring big dramas, Eva Price and Rosie Webster are bowing out while there are big developments ahead for the Connors and a horrific new situation for Bethany Platt. Elsewhere, David continues his fight for justice while Steve McDonald is getting married, again. Josh faces justice. In the wake of Josh escaping justice following his arrest, he might think that he has gotten away with it, but David is going to keep a close eye on him, especially when it seems like he has targeted a new victim, and while the show may not see Josh jailed, it seems that there will be a comeuppance of sorts. Producer Kate Oates told Metro.co.uk, "I am not afraid of controversy. It's more important to reflect the truth. If you tie things up with a bow, there's a danger people take away from that. It's alright then, we don't need to talk about this anymore, it's done." But it's not done. There are lots of things within that story that we couldn't show on screen. If I were going to show that story in court, I'd have been fascinated to have played the truth of it. I hope he doesn't mind me name dropping here, but I am really good friends with Judge Robert Rinder, and I talked to him about the story and he spoke to me about how he might cross-examine someone on the stand or how someone else might. Rob is a massive supporter of the storyline. He's a great friend and sounding board. Duncan Craig from Survivors Manchester did the same when he took us through the kinds of questions someone might be faced with on the stand. It's hard and it's brutal, and you question whether we are set up in the best place to get these convictions. If it were a 9 p.m. drama and we saw David Platt on the stand talking about what had happened to him, a barrister might cross-examine him with a huge level of detail to try and discredit him. It is really intimate and makes you think. I never thought about it that way and how it could be spun. I think it's important not to artificially tie things up. I believe that David's perpetrator wouldn't be convicted in this instance. Eva's exit. With Peter in the dark about the loss of the surrogate pregnancy, Toya is taking big risks by lying, and this one may not pay off as Eva remains torn over Aiden's death and knows that Susie is the only thing that she has left of him. Peter will discover Toya's deceit, and their future will crash and burn as a result. So could Eva end up departing the street with her baby in her arms? Our insider said, "It's no secret how desperately Toya wants this baby, but at the same time, she doesn't feel right after what has happened. Toya could be facing heartbreak as a result." Michelle's double son drama. Michelle is trying her very best to rebuild her relationship with standoffish son Ali, who is clearly lying about what has gone on with his own home life with Wendy. But just as things may be getting on track, Ryan decides to stick around and tensions build. As the holiday DJ and the GP are forced to live together, trouble comes to Michelle's door. But could she end up losing them both? Or is Corrie set for one of the most dysfunctional family dynamics as they try to rebuild broken bonds? Joy for Anna? Bhavna Limbachka recently teased to Metro.co.uk that a wedding could be on the horizon after Rana and Kate deal with their troubles. Our insider side, fans will be rooting for them, but can they make it? With Zidane gone and the pair having come through so much, can they beat the odds that were previously stacked against them? Jim is back. He's getting out of the big house and he is going to have a score to settle after how things ended with Steve, so what mayhem will Jim cause when he arrives back in Weatherfield? Kate told us, "We have some amazing stuff with Jim McDonald. He's going to be coming back with a lot of resentment because of what Steve did. From his point of view, he has been rotting in prison and no one cares." We also played a story 18 months ago where it seemed like Steve might have inherited a genetic disease from his dad, but no one went to see Jim to ask if he was okay. We have a great story to play with that. More agony for the Connors. As the aftermath of Aidan's death continues to weigh heavily on the Connors, the shock of Alia being handed underworld leads to a fierce fight, and Alia isn't about to give up the factory without a fight, so who will come out on you? Meanwhile, Johnny continues to really struggle, and Liz will prove to be more than a shoulder to cry on. Lewis causes big trouble. Lewis will arrive back and it becomes clear that he is cahoots with Rosemary. So is he out to scam Gail and hurt the Platts even more than before? He is at his scheming best, but will his plan be foiled? Kate smiled. We have Lewis, king of cads. He is returning. I would have him for as long as Nigel Havers would want to stay, as he works brilliantly with Sue Nichols, and I love that existing dynamic that he played both mother and daughter. It's perfect, and I love everything that they have done with Sophie Thompson, as none of them have overplayed it. I was anxious about that story as it's about a medium talking about Richard Hillman. If you are going to tell that truthfully, you have a woman whose husband was a serial killer, then you have a stranger coming in, but you're playing it for laughs. How can you expect Helen Worth to play that honestly? But the writers were brilliant and were able to unfold it so it feels very truthful in the moment, and we will just spin it in a bit of a different way after that. Sophie does everything with integrity. She was perfect for it. Goodbye, Rosie. Rosie's exit is going to be a prime comedy storyline as Helen Flanagan heads off on maternity leave, and it will involve a cameo from This Morning presenters Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby. Kate teased, Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby are coming in for a bit of fun and part of Helen Flanagan's exit story. We're kind of replaying a bit of a trick we have used before because Rosie has already been on shows, but it will be great comedy. Phil and Holly will play themselves. I had a couple of hopes where I thought I could get them to slightly play against type. They're such good sports. I am very happy. That's the benefit of being in a big production company like ITV. I know Emma Gormley, who runs daytime. She's an amazing, successful person and a good friend of mine, so I was able to give her a ring and she said, yeah, that sounds fun. Steve and Tracy's wedding drama. Steve is heading for his record 7th wedding, but will Tracy really be his happy ever after? As the pair get engaged in coming weeks, surely this isn't a wedding that can go smoothly? Kate enthused. We also have Steve and Tracy. You've got to love it. I see them as a bit of a fiery Jack and Vera. They fit into old school Corrie, but they are not old school actors, they are fresh with it. Kate Ford benefits from a much more rounded type of storytelling. She is fantastic. When you look back at the layers she has played alongside Deirdre, Blanche, Amy, Steve and so many other relationships, there is such depth to this character. We can still see the darker side of Tracy. She's still a super bitch, but a much more believable one. Hostage horror for Bethany. Bethany thinks that the only thing she has to worry about from newcomer Kayla is a bit of jealousy, but there is something much darker afoot as it emerges that she is actually the daughter of jailed rapist Neil. As Neil launches an appeal against his sentence, Kayla is determined to get close to Bethany and Craig, and it will lead to a terrifying hostage situation as Bethany is taken captive. Can Craig save her? Nick comes home. After losing his relationship with Leanne following his jealousy around Steve and Peter, Nick departed the street after almost drowning in quicksand. So what is set to bring him back later this year, and might there be a reunion with Carla on the horizon? Nick last saw Carla when their wedding fell to pieces, so they will no doubt have quite a significant amount of catching up to do. And what will Nick make of everything that has been happening to the Platts of late? Sean's homelessness ordeal. As Sean hits on hard financial times, things will get worse and he ends up homeless, living in a tent with someone else who is on the streets. But things take a devastating turn when Sean is then brutally attacked by homophobic thugs in a public toilet. As Shona discovers Sean's plight, can he be helped out of his situation?